Morning, everybody. Today we're going to start your lecture with your. We have completed your nerve physiology, neuromuscular junctions, skeletal muscle, cardiac muscle, and now we are going to start with your smooth muscle. Now, first we will discuss about some general features of the smooth muscle. Just like cardiac muscle, smooth muscle is a involuntary muscle. That means the contraction and relaxation of the muscle is not under our control. Secondly, they are unstriated muscle. Both skeletal and cardiac muscle were striated, but smooth muscle is unstriated. Reason is that you don't have a uniform pattern of arrangement of thick and thin filament in the smooth muscle. If you see the shape of the smooth muscle, their spindle shape. Dimensions vary with respect to location. So in some location they are small in size, for example in airways. In some location they are larger in size. For example, if you see the smooth muscle of uterus, the size is more. And these spindle shaped smooth muscle, they are aggregated to form fascicles. And if you look to the metabolism in the smooth muscle, then you will see that they have very few mitochondria, and for their energy requirement, they largely depend on glycolysis. Here you can see in this diagram the spindle shaped smooth muscle. They are arranged to form in the form of fascicle or sheets. Now coming to the structure of a smooth muscle, so some of the important differences that smooth muscle have with respect to structure, with respect to skeletal muscle, if you compare their structure, then you will see that the smooth muscle is having less amount of thick filament, and they're having more amount of thin filament. And if you see the actin or thin filament, then you will find that in smooth muscle, one of the regulator protein, which we call as troponin, which was present in your skeletal muscle, is not present. So in smooth muscle, in place of troponin, you have another protein, which we call them as calmodulin. That act as a regulator protein there. If you see the thick filament, then you will find that in a smooth muscle, the smooth muscle has far less ATPase activities. You know that the head of the myosin has the ATPase activity. That means they break the ATP into ADP for the generation of energy. But in a smooth muscle, the ATPase activity is less as compared to skeletal muscle. Secondly, for activation of ATPase activity, the head of myosin need to be phosphorylated. Phosphorylation means addition of phosphate group to the head of myosin. So till a phosphate group is attached to the head of myosin, this ATPase activity is not activated. So until phosphorylation is done, the ATPase activity will not be activated. That means your head of myosin will not break the ATP into this ATP into ADP and phosphate. So here two important difference is that first they have less of ATPase activity. Second, the smooth muscle required phosphorylation of myosin head for the activation of your ATPase activity. Then if you compare the structure of a smooth muscle with your skeletal muscle, cardiac muscle, there in both the muscle and cardiac or skeletal muscle, you were having Z lines where your thin filament are being attached. But in smooth muscle, this Z line is not there. And in place of Z line, you have dense bodies. So in this purple color, in this diagram, you can see this purple color, they are dense bodies. And you can see here from the dense body, the actin filaments are radiating. So this dense body acts as a point of attachment for thin actin filament. And these dense bodies are present attached to the cell membrane, or some of the dense body are just dispersed in the sarcoplasm, from where the actin filaments are radiating. And in the space between the actin filament, you can see the thick filaments are arranged. Now here you can see that this arrangement of thick and thin filament is not appearing in some particular pattern. That's why in a smooth muscle you don't have a striated type of appearance. With respect to sarcoplasmic reticulum, if you see in smooth muscle, sarcoplasmic reticulum is very ill developed in this smooth muscle. Reason is that most of the calcium requirement for contraction in smooth muscle is coming from extracellular fluids. Only small amount of calcium which is required for the contraction is coming from sarcoplasmic reticulum. So, secondly, if you see in smooth muscle, in place of T-tubule, you have caveoles. And these caveoles are just a small imagination of cell membrane that are making contact with sarcoplasmic reticulum. Just wait. No. Yeah. So this is another difference. If you see the structure of a smooth muscle with respect to skeletal muscle, so that in smooth muscle, the sarcoplasmic reticulum is very ill developed. Just a small, so you can see uh, uh, portion of the sarcoplasmic reticulum. You can see small sarcoplasmic reticulum just lying at the along the uh, sarcoplasm of smooth muscle. And in the place of T-tubule, they are having just a small evaluation of the cell membrane, which we call them as cabule. Here you can see in a smooth muscle, these purple type of thing, they are the sarcoplasmic reticulum. They are not so much developed, as most of the calcium which is required for the contraction is coming from the outside. And this small imagination of this cell membrane of smooth muscle, they act as a T-tubule. Basically, they are just analog of T-tubule, and which we call them as cabuli. Now, coming to the types of smooth muscle, there are two types of smooth muscle: single unit smooth muscle and multi-unit smooth muscle. Now, single unit smooth muscle is also known as visceral smooth muscle. Reason is that they are generally present in the walls of hollow viscera. Hollow viscera, मतलब if you see a GI tract, your intestine, your stomach, your urinary bladder, they are hollow viscera. So they are found in these locations mostly. That's why they are also known as visceral smooth muscle. Now, in single unit smooth muscle, if you see, the smooth muscle fibers, they are arranged in the form of large sheet. And these smooth muscles, they are connected to one another at multiple points along their cell membrane through the gap junctions. So functionally, they are syncytial in character, just like as your cardiac muscle. And here, the force which is generated at one location could be easily transferred to the next muscle fibers. Plus, the action potential which is developed at one location can easily be passed through the gap junctions to other locations. So, depolarization can run along the whole sheet of smooth muscle fibers. So, here in single unit smooth muscle fiber, the smooth muscles, they are arranged in the form of large sheets, and here the muscle fibers are connected to one another through the gap junctions, and they are functionally syncytially connected. As I told you, location, if you see, they are located in the wall of hollow viscera, or like your GI tract, stomach, urinary bladder, ureter, your respiratory tracts, and they have a pacemaker activities. Just like if you see the cardiac muscle, where you have SL node which is generating the impulse, and this impulse is causing contraction. So similarly, in single unit smooth muscle also, they are pacemaker cells, and these pacemaker cells, they are generating the rhythmic impulses, which is responsible for rhythmic contraction and relaxation. For example, if you see your GI tract, so they are contracting and relaxing in a rhythmic fashion. This rhythmic contraction and relaxation because of pacemaker cells, which is present in the wall of these GI tracts. And this cell, we call them as a interstitial cell of Kajari. So here also in a single unit smooth muscle, you have pacemaker activities. And though the impulse generation is happening at the level of smooth muscle there, but the rate of impulse contraction can be regulated. And this impulse contraction, this impulse generation could be regulated by both uh, nervous influences and some non-nervous or non-neural stimulus also. Nervous influences, if you see, you have an autonomic nervous system, sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. So they can increase or decrease the rate of contraction and relaxation. If you see your GI tract, you will find that parasympathetic stimulation is stimulatory in nature, and your sympathetic stimulation is inhibitory in nature. That means that whenever there is a parasympathetic flow, the contraction and relaxation in GI tract is increased. And whenever there are sympathetic flow is increased, the rate of contraction relaxation of the GI tract decreases. Similarly, you have some non-neural stimuli also, which can regulate the rate of contraction. For example, stretch, some hormones are there, temperature, and change in pH. So there are some non-neural stimuli which can affect the contraction. Here you can see a single unit smooth muscle where the individual muscle fibers are connected to each other through gap junctions, and they are arranged in the form of a large sheet. Second type of smooth muscles are multi-unit smooth muscle. Here they are made up of multiple individual muscle fibers, and these multiple individual muscle fibers, they are not connected to each other through any interconnected bridge. That means they don't have any gap junctions, and they are act as non-syncytial in character. Location, if you see, they're present in iris and ciliary bodies of your eyes, then piloerector muscles, which is present in your skin, and in the walls of most of the blood vessels. And these multi-unit smooth muscles, they don't have a pacemaker activity. That means that they don't have a pacemaker cell which is generating rhythmic electrical impulses, which is causing contraction and relaxation. Rather, here in multi-unit smooth muscle, each of the individual muscle fibers are innervated by a nerve fibers, and these nerve fibers are coming from your autonomic nervous system, so sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. So each of the muscle fibers of your multi-unit smooth muscle, they are innervated by the nerve fibers. You know, control of smooth muscle contraction, if you see, and if you compare it with the skeletal muscle, you have seen that the control of skeletal muscle is under the control of control of your nervous signal, which is coming through the nerve, which is arising from the ventral horn of your spinal cord. So from your nerve, electrical impulses were coming, and there was a release of a neurotransmitter at neuromuscular junction, which was causing depolarization at the level of muscle, and which was causing the contraction. Here, in smooth muscle, could be stimulated not only by a nervous signal, but there are many some non-nervous signals, stimuli are there, which can cause smooth muscle contraction. For example, your hormonal stimulus, or when you stretch, that can also cause depolarization, or some local tissue or some chemical factors. For example, rise in temperature, or change in the pH, or change in some ions, concentration of ions. They can stimulate or they could inhibit the contraction of a smooth muscle. Reason for this is that why a smooth muscle can be stimulated or inhibited by so many factors. The reason is that it contains many types of receptor proteins on this there. So smooth muscle is having many types of receptor proteins, and they have a different receptor protein for different type of stimuli. Some receptor protein can get activated by your nervous signals. Some receptor proteins are getting activated by some uh, hormones. For example, you have a vasopressin hormone, which uh, which can cause the contraction of a smooth muscles. Or some receptors are there which get activated because of stretching. Some receptors are there which get activated whenever there is a change in temperature or change in the oxygen concentration or change in some hydrogen ion concentration. So since a smooth muscle is having different types of receptor for different type of stimuli, so they could be stimulated or inhibited not only by nervous signals but also by many of the non-nervous signals. Now coming to the neuromuscular junction, if you see the nerve supply of a smooth muscle, if you see a there you will see that nerve supply is coming through the autonomic nervous system, and they have a dual nerve supply through sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. So, and in some locations sympathetic is stimulatory, in some location sympathetic is inhibitory. It depends upon what is the location that you will learn when autonomic nervous system is will be talking. So you will see that these sympathetic and parasympathetic nerves, as they approach the smooth muscle, they show extensive branching, and these small branches of sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, they don't end to the muscle fiber just like on the motor end plates, just like a skeletal muscle. Rather, you will see that these branches of these autonomic nervous system, they are having a beaded appearance, and these beaded appearances we call them as varicosities. And these varicosities are having neurotransmitter, which is released in the neighborhood or in the matrix, which is coating the smooth muscle. And these neurotransmitter, once released in the matrix coated over the smooth muscle, they diffuse throughout the smooth muscles, uh, and they, as per the location, they will cause contraction or relaxation, depending upon what neurotransmitter is released at what location. Now, coming to the electrical activity of the smooth muscle, so if you see the membrane potential of the smooth muscle, you will find that just like pacemakers issues of the cardiac muscle, the smooth muscle membrane potential are characterized by instability of membrane potential. So their membrane potential is not fixed, rather it's a fluctuating membrane potential, which can fluctuate from minus 45 to minus 60 millivolt. And this voltage of the smooth muscle will depend upon what is the condition of a smooth muscle of that mode. So when you are, if you stretch the smooth muscle, the voltage change will be something, and when the smooth muscle will relax, the resting membrane potential of smooth muscle will be different. So membrane potential of the smooth muscle, they are unstable, they keep on fluctuating, and at any moment the membrane potential will depend upon what is the status of the smooth muscle at that very point. Now coming to slow wave potential, which is also known as basic electrical rhythm. So we have seen in single unit smooth muscle that there the impulse generation is happening instantly. So these smooth muscle are self-excitatory, and in these smooth muscle, the action potential arise within the smooth muscle without any uh, extrinsic stimulus. There is a pacemaker which itself is generating some electrical impulses, and that electrical impulses will cause action potential, and in response to that, the muscle will contract. So here, these action potentials which is generated, they are associated with some with the slow wave fluctuation of resting membrane potential of your smooth muscle, and this slow rhythmic fluctuation of membrane potential, we call them as slow wave rhythms. We will see that how the slow wave rhythm is associated with your action potential. At this moment, you just understand this. In some smooth muscle, they're self-excitatory. They're generating its own action potentials, which is causing the contraction. But these action potential are associated with wave, which we call them as slow wave rhythm, slow wave potential, or basic electrical rhythm. Now, what actually slow wave or basic electrical rhythm is? They are actually slow undulating changes in the resting membrane potential of smooth muscle. And here the membrane potential vary from minus 55 to minus 65. So here minus 65 means more negative, that means it is less excitatory. Minus 25 means less negative, that means it's more excitable. So here the resting membrane potential is showing slow undulating changes, and this slow undulating changes we call them as slow wave rhythm of basic electrical. Now this slow wave rhythm of basic electrical rhythm is because of some stellate mesenchymal pacemaker cells, and these stellate mesenchymal pacemaker cells, they are having multiple long branches which are going and they are making contact with the smooth muscle. And these stellate mesenchymal pacemaker cells, if you see along the GI tract, they are connected to one another and they are sending large number of long processes which are making contact with the smooth muscles. And they are the cells which are generating these basic electrical rhythm. Now these pacemaker cells undergo cyclic changes in the membrane potential. And this cyclic changes in the membrane potential is because of some unique ion channel which is present in these pacemaker tissues. And these ion channels open and they close periodically. And because of this periodic opening and closing of these ion channel, which is present in the pacemaker tissue, is responsible for generation of your slow wave rhythm. They are not action potential because these slow wave rhythm, they don't spread over the muscle fiber. Action potential, once it is created, it is spread throughout the membrane of the muscle fiber, but they are not spreading. Also, this slow wave rhythm are not causing contraction because this slow wave rhythm doesn't causes entry of calcium. Without entry of calcium, they can't cause contraction. But the importance of the slow wave rhythm is that the first they cause generation of spike potential, and these spike potential are actually action potential, which is causing contraction. Actually, if you see the slow wave rhythm, it is slowly from minus 65, it will slowly increase to minus 45. Okay, and these minus 45 you can consider as a threshold level because of which spike potentials, when membrane potential reaches to that level, then some spike type of potential changes are created, which we call them as spike potentials. And they are the basically action potential. And here the frequency of these spike potential will depend upon what is the amplitude of this slow wave rhythm. More is the amplitude of slow wave rhythm, more will be the frequency of a spike potential. So slow wave rhythm, which is slow undulating changes in resting membrane potential, they are not the action potential. They are changes in the membrane potential from negative to less negative value. And when the membrane potential has reached to less negative value, they cause generation of spike potential. And these spike potential are basically the action potential of your smooth muscle. So here, if you see the action potentials, they appear in two forms. One is your spike potential, and second is action potential with plateau. So just like they are, if you see the shape, it is similar to action potential of skeletal muscle, and duration is your 10 to 50 milliseconds. They could be elicited by any of these stimuli, either because of electrical or hormonal stimulus, stretch, or spontaneous generation because of your pacemaker tissue. The spike potential can be generated because of multiple stimuli, which we have discussed before also. Second type of action potential which you can see in smooth muscle it is just similar to the action potential of cardiac muscle. Here the action potential is having a plateau. So here onset is just similar like to a spike potential, but here the repolarization is delayed, just like cardiac muscle. And because of this delayed repolarization, here it leads to prolonged contraction because the repolarization is delayed here. So because of this, the action potential with plateau, they causes prolonged tonic contraction in smooth muscle. If you see the ionic basis of action potential here, so here the action potential is mostly because of calcium channels. So because of opening of the calcium channel, it causes the action potential or spike potentials. And these calcium channels are slow channels. So they open slowly, or plus they remain open for a longer time. Now coming to the process of contraction of a smooth muscle, you will see that the process of cross bridge formation and the sliding of the thick and thin filament over each other in smooth muscle, it is very much similar to the process which is happening in a skeletal muscle. But one of the difference is that in smooth muscle we don't have protein, we have regulatory protein. So here in smooth muscle, in place of troponin, we have another regulatory protein, which we call them as calmodulin. And these calmodulin are your calcium binding protein. Now you will see that how this contraction is taking place. So first, before that, you see that what is the source of calcium in the smooth muscle. So as I have discussed you before also, that most of the calcium which is required for contraction in smooth muscle, it comes from the outside, from your extracellular fluid. Only small amount of calcium is coming from the sarcoplasmic reticulum. So if when a stimulus is given to a smooth muscle, stimulus could be anything. It could be through a pacemaker cells, or it could be because of electrical stimuli, or it could be because of stretching, or it could be because of hormonal stimuli. So because of this, if a stimulus is applied, then what happens? There is a increase in calcium influx through some ligand-gated or voltage-gated calcium channel, which is present over the surface of smooth muscle. And these calcium, they bind with the protein calmodulin, which is present inside the cell, and they form calcium calmodulin complex. Now, this calcium calmodulin complex cause activation of a protein, of an enzyme, which we call them as myosin light chain kinase. And the function of this myosin light chain kinase is to cause phosphorylation of myosin. Okay. So calcium calmodulin complex cause activation of myosin light chain kinase, and because of that, there's a phosphorylation of myosin head. And because of once the myosin head gets phosphorylated, then the ATPase activity of myosin get activated. And once the ATPase activity of myosin head get activated, it will cause break of ATP into ADP and phosphate. There will be release of energy. There will be cocking of the head, and then this myosin head will form a cross bridge with the actin, and then the actin will slide over myosin. So this is the way the contraction is happening in smooth muscle, which is a bit different from the contraction which is happening in cardiac muscle. So when you are applying the stimulus, there is an influx of calcium, and this calcium form a complex with calmodulin. This calcium calmodulin complex causes activation of myosin light chain kinase, which causes phosphorylation of myosin head. Once myosin head is phosphorylated, it causes activation of myosin ATPase, and once the myosin ATPase get activated, it will cause breakage of ATP into ADP, release of energy, then cross bridge formation, and then sliding of actin over myosin. Now, how it will get relaxed? For relaxation of smooth muscle, two things are required. First, there should be decrease in the level of calcium so that the calcium calmodulin complex dissociate. Second thing is that which is required is that the myosin head should be dephosphorylated. And this dephosphorylation of myosin head is done by myosin light chain phosphatase. So first there is a decrease in the level of calcium, and there is a dissociation of calcium carbonate complex. Then myosin head is dephosphorylated by myosin light chain phosphatase, and after that there is the relaxation of muscle. Latch bridge mechanism. If you see the smooth muscle of your, suppose you are just take an example of your GI tracts. So in GI tract, you will see that your intestine, stomach, they are not present in relaxed state. A partial state of contraction is continuously present throughout your GI tract, throughout your genitourinary system, and this partial state of contraction will cause consumption of large amount of energy, because contraction is active process. So if this partial state of contraction need to be sustained for a very long time, then there is a requirement of large amount of energy. And if this large amount of energy is, so what actually is there? They require large amount of energy, but we don't have this amount of energy. So some method should be devised so that the smooth muscle sustain its contraction for longer time with little use of energy. And in a smooth muscle, this is being done by a phenomena which we call them as latch bridge phenomena. In latch bridge phenomena, the smooth muscle maintain a sustained contraction of muscle with very little use of energy. And if this latch bridge phenomena was not there, then we would have required a large amount of ATP to maintain the sustained contraction of your GI tracts. So this is exclusively for smooth muscle. If they can maintain contraction for longer time with very little uses of energy, and this we call as latch bridge phenomenon. Now, how this operates? Actually, the contraction will depend upon whether your actin and myosin are present in or attached to each other or not. If the cross bridge of myosin head is attached to actin for longer time, then there will be a sustained contraction. Got it? Here in smooth muscle, what happened actually? There is a very slow rate of activation of myosin kinase and myosin phosphatase. Myosin kinase is for phosphorylation of myosin head, and myosin phosphatase is for dephosphorylation. Since the rate of myosin phosphorylation and myosin dephosphorylation is very slow, so the attachment and detachment of myosin head with actin, that process also become very slow. That means the head of the myosin is attached with the actin for longer time, and since the myosin head is attached with actin for a longer time, so the smooth muscle is able to contract for longer time with little uses of energy. So there is a slow rate of activation of myosin light chain kinase and myosin light chain phosphatase, and because of this slow rate of activation, there is a slow attachment and detachment. And because of slow attachment and detachment, there is a prolonged period of attachment of myosin head with actin, and that leads to longer contraction with lesser use of energy. Now, if you see the smooth muscle contraction, then you will see that with the phases, the latent phase, contraction phase, and relaxation phase, the duration is more as compared to skeletal muscle. In a smooth muscle, the latent phase is about 50 to 100 milliseconds. Contraction phase is about 500 milliseconds. And relaxation is still more prolonged. It is about 1 to 2 seconds. So if you see the total phase of this latent contraction relaxation phase, it is about 30 times of the skeletal muscles. The latent period is prolonged because of slow opening of the calcium channel. So the calcium enter from the extracellular fluid to the intracellular fluid very slowly. So this latent period is very much prolonged. Contraction period is prolonged because of slow ATPase activity of myosin head. So myosin head takes a lot of time to break ATP and cause and then cause popping of the head, then attachment of the head, and then sliding of actin over the myosin. Because slow ATPase activity, the contraction period is slow. Relaxation is slow because of slow cycling frequency of myosin kinase and myosin phosphatase. So that means your head of myosin remain attached with the actin filament for longer time. Plus also the slow opening of the calcium channel. So because of slow opening of the calcium channel, that means the calcium will take longer time to move from intracellular fluid to the extracellular. So till the level of calcium is not decreased in the cytoplasm of the smooth muscle, the relaxation will not happen. But the calcium channel is a slow opening channel, so they take longer time. That's why the relaxation phase also long. If you see the energy requirement of smooth muscle, compare the energy requirement of smooth muscle with the skeletal muscle to sustain the same contraction, you will see that the smooth muscle require lesser amount of energy as compared to skeletal muscle to produce the same amount of tension. And the reason for that is that they have a slow cycling frequency of attachment and detachment of the cross bridge between actin and myosin. And this slow cyclic frequency of attachment and detachment is because of slow activation and inactivation of myosin kinase and myosin phosphatase. So because of this, the myosin head is attached with the actin for longer time, and they are able to cause greater contraction with lesser use of energy. And that is the reason why the hollow viscera are able to maintain a tonic contraction for a very long time. Force generated, if you compare the skeletal muscle with smooth muscle, with regard to force generated per unit square, per unit area, you will see that the smooth muscle generate more force with respect to per unit area. So if it's a smooth muscle, the maximum force which could be generated is about 4 to 6 kg per centimeter square. But in skeletal muscle, it is just 3 to 4 kg per centimeter square. And the reason why they are able to generate more force per unit area, the reason is that same because of the prolonged attachment of myosin head with actin filament, because of slow cycling frequency of myosin light chain kinase and myosin light chain phosphatase. So the myosin head is attached with the actin filament for longer time. So they are able to generate more force per unit area. So with this, we complete your smooth muscles. Actually, I'm not well today. I'm having very high grade fever. But there was class, so I thought it was better to take the class. You can read something from your books also. And if you have any confusion, we can discuss later. So with this, we complete our lecture today.